They tell you the system is fair. They say if you work hard, follow the rules, and stay patient, you will rise. But here is the truth most people never hear. Modern governments are not designed to make you wealthy. They are designed to keep you dependent. Every tax, every regulation, every inflation cycle, every debt program has one hidden purpose. Not to help you escape the system, but to lock you inside it. You are not poor because you failed. You are poor because the system needs you that way. From the moment you are born, you enter a financial maze. School teaches you how to obey schedules, not how to build wealth. Jobs teach you how to survive, not how to gain leverage. Banks teach you how to borrow, not how to own. And governments, they teach you to trust. Trust the currency. Trust the taxes. Trust the policies. Trust the leaders. But history tells a very different story. Every powerful government, from ancient empires to modern states, has used the same tools. Control money, control labor, control resources, and control fear. When people feel insecure, they accept restrictions. When people are in debt, they obey. When people are distracted, power grows quietly. This is not conspiracy. This is strategy. Look around. Wages struggle to rise. Prices never stop climbing. Debt is everywhere. Savings feel impossible. Freedom feels expensive. And yet, governments keep expanding, printing, taxing, and regulating. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. To understand how we got here, we must go back to the roots of power, not to modern politics, not to social media debates, but to the foundations of government control itself. Long before paper money, before central banks, before digital finance, rulers understood one thing clearly. Whoever controls resources controls people. In ancient civilizations, power came from land and grain. Kings owned the fields. Empires controlled trade routes. Armies protected supply chains. If you wanted food, safety, or work, you depended on the state. People didn't need to be rich. They only needed to survive. As societies grew, so did the methods of control. Taxes replaced tribute. Laws replaced chains. Money replaced force. Control became quieter, smoother, and more acceptable. Instead of taking everything from you, the system learned to take a little forever. This was the birth of modern financial dependence. When paper currency was introduced, it wasn't created to make citizens wealthy. It was created to make governments flexible. They could now fund wars, expand borders, build institutions, and manage crises without directly taking gold from the people. Money became a tool of influence. Later came central banking. On the surface, it promised stability. But in reality, it concentrated financial power into fewer hands. Interest rates, inflation, and credit access became political tools. Prosperity was no longer organic, it was engineered. And when money is engineered, so is poverty. Every time a government spends beyond its means, it doesn't pay the price you do. Through inflation, through taxes, through reduced purchasing power, through weaker savings. Your salary may increase, but your lifestyle doesn't. Your income may rise, but your freedom doesn't. You run faster, but the finish line moves further away. This is not accidental. A population that struggles financially is easier to manage. It works more, questions less, and depends more on state support. Debt becomes normal. Stress becomes routine. Survival becomes the focus. And while you are busy surviving, power grows. Now look at modern systems. Welfare programs, student loans, housing subsidies, emergency relief. These appear helpful, and sometimes they are. But they also create long-term dependence, short-term comfort, long-term control. When citizens rely on the system for stability, they are less likely to challenge it. When people fear losing support, they accept limits on freedom. When survival is tied to policy, power becomes unquestioned. This is how control becomes invisible. Governments rarely say, "We want you poor." They say, "We want to help you." But help that never leads to independence is not help. It is management. The goal is not to lift everyone to the top. The goal is to keep the system balanced with a large working base and a small controlling peak. And the tools used to maintain this balance are everywhere. Taxes reduce your growth. Inflation reduces your savings. Debt reduces your choices. Regulations reduce your flexibility. None of these alone destroy wealth, but together they quietly limit it. Now here is the uncomfortable question. If governments truly wanted every citizen to become financially independent, Why isn't financial education the foundation of school systems? Why aren't children taught how money works, how debt traps form, how inflation erodes value, how assets grow, and how power operates? Because knowledge creates independence, and independence weakens control. Instead, people are trained to be good workers, not powerful owners, reliable taxpayers, not strategic thinkers. The system doesn't need you rich, it needs you functional. And as long as you are functional, the machine runs smoothly. But this story doesn't end here, because throughout history, there have always been people who learned the rules of the system and used them to escape it. People who understood power, money, and control, and built their own leverage. The rise of government power created pressure, and pressure always creates resistance. In the next part, we will uncover how governments expanded their control in the modern era, how crises became opportunities for power growth, and how financial systems evolved to keep citizens working harder for less freedom. And most importantly, we will expose the moment where control became normalized. If this topic challenges your thinking, subscribe to Fiscora Empire, because understanding power is the first step to escaping it. Governments rarely take power in one dramatic move. They expand it slowly, step by step, using moments of fear, crisis, and uncertainty. The modern era changed everything. Wars became larger, economies became global, populations grew, and the cost of control became expensive. To manage this, governments needed money, not just taxes, but constant access to capital. This is where debt became a permanent tool of power. Instead of saving first and spending later, governments learned to borrow now and let future citizens pay the bill. National debt stopped being a warning sign. It became a strategy. With debt, governments could fund wars, build massive systems, and expand influence without asking permission from the people. The public didn't feel the cost immediately. The pressure came later through inflation, taxes, and reduced services, and people accepted it because the pain was delayed. Then came the great turning point, economic crises. Every major crisis created fear, and fear makes people desperate for protection. When markets crash, people look to the government. When banks fail, people demand stability. When jobs disappear, people want rescue. This is when power grows fastest. Emergency laws pass quickly, spending increases instantly, oversight weakens, and control expands under the promise of safety. Temporary measures become permanent systems. The solution becomes the new normal. Each crisis reshapes the relationship between citizens and the state. People trade independence for security, freedom for stability, control for comfort, and over time, this exchange becomes invisible. Money systems evolve too. Currencies used to be backed by physical value, gold, silver, resources, but that limited how much governments could spend, so limits were removed. Now, money is backed by trust, and trust can be printed. When governments print more currency, nothing feels different at first. Salaries still arrive, prices rise slowly, people adjust, but wealth quietly drains, savings lose value. Purchasing power weakens. Assets become harder to reach, and the gap between those who own and those who work widens. The rich don't rely on cash, they rely on assets. The working class relies on income, and income loses power over time. This is how financial pressure grows without force. Now look at labor. Work used to lead to ownership. Today, work leads to survival. Housing becomes more expensive. Education becomes more costly. Healthcare becomes a burden. So people borrow, loans become normal. Debt becomes routine. Payments become permanent. And debt creates obedience. A person with no savings and high payments cannot take risks. A person with obligations cannot resist pressure. A person in debt must stay compliant. This is not cruelty. Governments don't need to control individuals directly. They shape systems that guide behavior. Work more, spend more, save less, depend more. Over time, people stop asking why things feel harder. They blame themselves. I should work more. I should earn better. I should try harder. But the system is designed so effort alone rarely leads to freedom. Effort feeds the machine. Ownership escapes it. Now let's talk about control through rules. Regulations are presented as protection. Some are necessary, but many also limit competition, slow small businesses, and favor large institutions. Big players can afford compliance. Small players struggle. This creates dependency on large corporations, which often work closely with government systems. Power becomes centralized. The average citizen becomes a user, not an owner, a consumer, not a controller. And while people focus on daily survival, long-term influence shifts quietly upward. The breaking point comes when people realize something feels wrong, but they don't know why. They feel tired, they feel stressed, they feel stuck. Yet they keep moving because stopping feels impossible. This is the modern pressure loop. Work to survive, borrow to keep up, pay to exist. Repeat, governments don't need to trap people. The system does it naturally. And here is the most powerful part. The system feels normal. People grow up inside it. They inherit it. They accept it. Control doesn't feel like control when it's familiar. But history shows us something important. Every powerful structure eventually creates tension. And tension always leads to change. The question is not whether the system limits people. The question is how long people will accept it. In the next part, we will explore the fallout of this system, how modern citizens are reacting, how new tools are shifting power, and what lessons history gives us for escaping financial dependence. If you want to understand how power shapes your future, stay with Fiscora Empire. The effects of long-term control are not sudden. They appear slowly, quietly, in daily life. People don't wake up one day and feel oppressed. They wake up tired. They wake up worried. They wake up focused on bills, not freedom. This is the fallout. When a system prioritizes stability over independence, growth becomes limited. Innovation slows. Risk feels dangerous. Security feels necessary. And security always comes with conditions. Over time, people begin to accept less: smaller homes, longer hours, higher prices, fewer choices. Not because they want to, because they have to. The gap between those who control systems and those who live inside them continues to widen. The wealthy move into assets. The average citizen stays in wages. One group gains leverage, the other gains responsibility. And responsibility feels like pressure. Now look at the modern world. Technology was supposed to free people. Information was supposed to empower everyone. But power adapts. Digital systems made control faster, not weaker. Data replaced paperwork. Algorithms replaced gatekeepers. Automation replaced stability. People gained convenience but lost privacy. They gained access but lost leverage. Every click creates data. Every transaction creates a record. Every habit becomes predictable. And predictability is powerful. Governments and institutions can now shape behavior without force. By adjusting systems, by binding incentives, by managing access. Control doesn't look like authority anymore. It looks like design. The pressure continues in new forms. Remote work feels flexible, but unstable. Gig work feels free, but uncertain. Online income feels independent, but competitive. People chase opportunity, but security still feels fragile. And when security feels fragile, people accept more oversight, more rules, and more structure. Fear keeps the system stable. But something else is happening too. More people are questioning the structure. They notice that working harder doesn't always mean living better. They see that debt keeps growing. They feel that money loses value faster than it can be earned. And awareness is dangerous for any system built on routine. When people understand how power works, they stop blaming themselves. They stop thinking failure is personal. They start seeing patterns. History shows us that every major shift begins with awareness. When citizens understand the mechanics of control, they begin to look for alternatives, not rebellion, but independence. People start learning about assets, about leverage, about financial systems, about how power flows through money, information, and influence. They stop focusing only on income. They start focusing on ownership. This is the real threat to control. Not protests, but knowledge. Because knowledge creates options, and options create freedom. Governments are not evil, they are structures. And structures follow incentives. Power follows efficiency. Control follows stability. The system was built to maintain order, not maximize individual freedom. That doesn't make it cruel, it makes it predictable. The mistake is believing the system exists to make everyone wealthy. It doesn't. It exists to keep society functioning, and functioning does not require freedom. It requires participation, but participation does not require dependence. This is where the story changes. Those who learn how money works stop relying on income alone. Those who learn how systems work stop trusting structure blindly. They build outside the system while living inside it. They use the tools of power instead of being shaped by them. They understand that wealth is not just money. It is control over time, choices, and direction. Freedom is not given, and history proves this. Empires fall, systems shift, power moves. But those who understand the mechanics of control adapt faster than those who only feel the pressure. The goal is not to escape society. The goal is to stop being trapped by it. To understand how money flows, to understand how incentives work, to understand how power operates. Because once you understand power, it loses its mystery. And when mystery disappears, fear weakens. Governments will always use power. Systems will always shape behavior. Control will always exist. The question is not whether power exists. The question is whether you understand it. Because understanding is the difference between surviving inside a system and rising beyond it. If this story changed how you see the world, stay with Fiscora Empire. Because the future belongs to those who understand how power truly works.